more and more, we are seeing people who come in as what might be called solo agers. Solo agers may have family, they might not, but their family might not, if they have family, they might not be in a position to be able to help for one reason or another. Maybe they don't have the relationship, maybe they live on the other side of the world. Who knows? It doesn't really matter why. But I think solo agers are particularly vulnerable, especially if they're changing cognitively. And so one of my favorite stories about a client who has since passed, lived to be 100 years old. When she was in her 90s, she had been working with Mission for probably about 15 years. And when she was about 95 or so, I would go pick her up and we'd go to lunch and just stay connected with her. And she missed a couple of those appointments that I had with her where she didn't show up. And after she did it twice, I thought, okay, something's not right. Things have changed for her. I need to understand what's going on better. And I called her one day and said, hi, how are you doing? Can I come over now? So I didn't set an appointment. I just said, can I come now? And she said, come on over. So she was there. And the reality was she didn't have anyone else who was going to call the question and say, do you think it might be time for you to let go? All she had was us. She had friends who might have eventually gotten alarmed enough, but they might not have recognized the issues themselves either. And so we were the ones that said to her, we think it might be time for you to resign as trustee and for Mission to step in as trustee. And we talked about it, and she said, yes, you're right. I'm aware that I've been changing cognitively, and she understood that. And so that's the point at which we stepped in and put our arms around her and made sure that she was safe. And she ended up having Alzheimer's in a very advanced mode, and to where she could not hardly communicate at all the last several months that she was alive. And throughout that whole time, we worked with the individual who was functioning as her healthcare power of attorney, as her agent under that healthcare power of attorney, and made sure that she was well cared for. We talked about budgets. She had been in one place. We thought, we think she'd be better in a different kind of a place, and we helped. Well, we didn't make that decision. We helped facilitate that and support that with the healthcare agent. And when she passed, we distributed her assets. She had a couple of distant family members and then some nonprofits that she had designated, and we worked with those folks to receive those assets. And she knew she was in good hands, and we took really good care of her. I'm really proud of that.
As you should be, and I think that speaks to, again, that it's people first, because when we have these documents, it tells us, okay, if someone's unable to manage their financial affairs, you need to either get that in writing from a doctor or go to the court and have them make a finding of that, and then you can step in, Mission, as successor trustee. Mm-hmm. Well, that's really invasive.
Mm-hmm, that's
and
right.
So I think what I have observed in the short time I've been with the team is how sensitive we are, and navigating that and trying to do so with allowing that person whatever level of independence they can still exercise, and dignity, and make that partly their choice to the extent they can make it a choice, and have them graciously step down.
Right. And we're not about control. We're about being a partner with someone. And while we might at some point have to have kind of complete control over the assets, it doesn't mean that we're doing it without regard to what they want, and certainly not with their needs, right? That's all built into the trust document. But I think that we're very sensitive about those kinds of things. So that's one of my favorite stories, because she didn't have anyone else in Tucson, Arizona, who was going to look out for her, other than also a company that had healthcare power of attorney for her.
Yes, and then when the person passes away, we have to turn our attention to who they've left behind and who they are intending to leave their estate to, and that brings in a whole other dynamic, and individuals we may not have known and we have to come to know, and they're oftentimes in a state of grief, there might be a wide range of emotions associated with that, and so we have to pay attention to that. We are sensitive to that, and we're responsive to the best we can be, and we are highly communicative as far as I know with all those individuals.
Right, and we navigate each of those individually as well, and we will also serve at times under a financial power of attorney, and even whether or not we will formally step into that capacity, we're very cautious about, very careful. We don't want to insert ourselves where it's not essential for us to do it. Right,
And just to
we'd
talk,
rather support. on
yes,
that.
and talking about that financial power of attorney, just to make sure everyone understands that's distinct from being a trustee. So you might have a trust over here, and we've described that as a legal entity holding assets. But there might be income and assets that aren't part of that trust, and if that's the case, then who manages those when someone can't for themselves? And that would be specified in a financial power of attorney, who's going to be that attorney in fact or agent that steps in to deal with the non-trust income and assets. And I think Mission, again, is unique in that we are a corporate trustee who's willing to entertain serving in that role as well, because they really go hand in hand. How do you manage one pot and not the other, and really having that holistic approach?